Welcome to another IELTS video. This video is being made in response to a request that was posted by a user in the comments section of my previous video, and that previous video was looking at specific word combinations that could be used to improve clarity in academic task 1. In this video we're going to be looking at task 2 for the academic or general exam, and we're specifically looking at language patterns that you can use to improve your clarity. If you find this video helpful, please join us at IELTSnetwork.com and visit my website at EnglishRyan.com. I felt the best way to share certain phrases and vocabulary and words with you that you can apply to any essay would be to show these words and phrases in action. Okay, so I've come up with a bit of a question, and you would never see a question like this on your IELTS, but I thought a very simple question like this could help us more focus on the language that we use to establish points, to make arguments, to share examples. Okay, so I didn't want to choose anything that was overly complicated and that only maybe certain language would apply to. This is a very simple topic, and I think it will more easily express the points that we want to get across today. So the question reads: PepsiCo is a company well positioned for the global market. Do you agree or disagree? Okay, so now I've spent several videos going over introduction paragraph phrasing and words and conclusion paragraph phrasing and words. So I wanted to more focus on the key vocabulary that you can use in your supporting paragraphs to help add clarity to what you're saying. So in this paragraph, we're going to be using, so we're supposed to be proving that PepsiCo is indeed well positioned for the global market, and we're going to be using Pepsi's reinvention of itself in China as our main example. So Pepsi traditionally was very heavy on the blue color. In a lot of Western countries it was a blue product, so the can was blue and its marketing was very blue. And in China they altered that to more fit with the Chinese market. So just to give you some background on you know where we're going with this paragraph. Okay, so what you see up here is a sentence. Now these are various phrases that you can use to show additional information. Okay, so we have in addition, furthermore, moreover, secondly. And please in this video note where you see commas, because this is very important. If you see a comma, that means it absolutely must be there. And if it's not, then the sentence will likely read awkwardly and you will lose marks in your exam. So furthermore, PepsiCo tailors its marketing strategy to make its products more appealing to consumers the world over. Okay, this would be a topic sentence for our example. Now, the next sentence, as you know, would share specific examples. And I've listed here several different ways that we can share examples. So please note the different ways that you can word this sharing. So firstly, for example, for instance, PepsiCo alters its traditional blue color scheme to red in China to take advantage of the positive local sentiments associated with the color. Okay, so as far as today is concerned, we're more interested in the areas that you see in red. Okay, secondly, take PepsiCo's branding in China as an example, full stop. Now that's not the end of the example, that's just sort of a little intro to what the example is going to be. The example really happens here. Culturally, the Chinese prefer red, and thus the traditional PepsiCo image is altered to suit local tastes. Okay. As PepsiCo's altering of its colors from blue to red in China shows, it is a company that is willing to cater to the markets of its consumers. So what you can see here is we've used the words as and shows to kind of frame the example itself. PepsiCo is a company that has been willing to alter its image for large international markets such as China. PepsiCo is a company that has been willing to alter its image for international markets, namely major emerging countries like China and India. And I've created a little note for myself. I didn't want to forget to tell you that namely refers to something that is the most major example. So in this case, if we were to share only one country, so for example just China, it might read slightly awkwardly. PepsiCo's marketing strategy in China exemplifies this precisely. Okay, now you can use the verb exemplify to also share an example, but the only thing is that typically these sorts of sentences need to be continued in a subsequent sentence. In China, PepsiCo has altered its branding from blue to red to take advantage of the positive sentiments associated with the color among locals. PepsiCo's marketing strategy in China plays a good example here. Oh, I should have had this in red. PepsiCo's marketing strategy in China is an obvious example. And then you would develop the example further just as we have done here. So this sentence would appear afterwards. This can be seen in PepsiCo's decision to change its branding from blue to red in China to take advantage of local color preferences, comma, for example, or for instance. Okay, so you can see the combination here that's framing the example. As a result of these marketing efforts, comma, PepsiCo has become one of the most popular soft drink brand names in the world. Oh, I'm sorry. So now we're finished examples. These are wordings on how you can discuss a topic and draw conclusions. So you'll find that that this sort of wording, it's very cause and effect. So you'll see that it's often pulling from information that's been presented before in an effort to lead the reader to a conclusion that we want the reader to see. So that's why we have as a result of these marketing efforts, because we've already shared our example. Okay, great way to word your discussion sentence. Because of these marketing efforts, comma, PepsiCo has become one of the most major. Owing to these marketing efforts, comma, and again, PepsiCo has become one of the most popular. Due to such aggressive marketing strategies, comma, such aggressive marketing strategies, as a result, have allowed PepsiCo to become one of the most popular soft drink brand names in the world's second largest economy. Okay, please also notice the way that the commas have been used here. As PepsiCo is among the top soft drink brand names in the world's second largest economy, comma, the effectiveness of its marketing strategy can be seen. Or we could say the effectiveness of its marketing strategy is clear, is obvious, is apparent. These would all be wonderful ways to very clearly show your reader the conclusion that you are drawing from your example. Therefore, it can be concluded. Okay, excuse me. Now we're getting into the language that would appear as your conclusion sentence in your paragraph, in your supporting paragraph. So this sort of language should very clearly be drawing a fundamental conclusion that you want the reader to see, and you want to display that there is a lot of merit to what you're saying based on the evidence that you've given. Okay, so language like therefore it can be concluded that, and then something. And I encourage you to use words like clearly, because these are very convincing ways to show your reader that that you feel and you want them to feel that what you're saying is it makes sense, it's logical, and it's fundamentally coherent and clear. This discussion clearly shows why PepsiCo is a company capable of positioning itself for growing global markets. Thus, it can be seen that, and please note the comma, PepsiCo is a company capable of positioning itself for growing global markets. It can thus be concluded that PepsiCo is a company capable of positioning itself for growing global markets. Thus, comma, the link between something and something can be seen. This is a very logical way to structure a sentence. So if you're trying to prove that something is affected by or directly linked to something else, then a sentence like this works perfectly. And you can apply this right to your writing. So you just take the two elements that you're looking at and plug them into this sentence. PepsiCo, as a result, comma, comma, can be concluded as a company with strong positioning for the global market. Okay, all this sort of language telling the reader that we have looked at evidence, we have discussed this evidence, and we're drawing the conclusion, and we feel they should agree that such and such is true. PepsiCo's ability to position itself for growth in China makes it clear that it is a company with effective strategy for global markets. Okay, again, using words like clear. We could change this to, for example, to something like establishes clarity that it is a company. Okay. Okay, now this last section, I want to talk about certain language that you can use to contrast ideas. And for the sake of our example here, I'm just using kind of the two ideas that general companies are being very traditional when PepsiCo is being very versatile and modern. And so we're just using a bit of contrasting language to show that there's a difference between the two and that PepsiCo is doing the right thing. So many companies stick to traditional logos and slogans when entering new markets like China. This would be an example, by the way. However, PepsiCo has been versatile in that it has radically altered its historically blue can to better suit Chinese buyers. Despite the fact that many companies are sticking to traditional logos and slogans when entering new markets like China, comma, PepsiCo has decided to be versatile and radically altered its historically blue can to better suit Chinese buyers. And I'll probably stick in your has. Despite the fact that, so here we're contrasting things. So despite the fact that company ABC is doing this, PepsiCo is doing this. And don't forget the important commas in here. Now, despite the fact that could be replaced with in spite of the fact that, while it is true that many companies have stuck to traditional logos and slogans when entering new markets like China, comma, PepsiCo made the decision to be versatile and radically altered its historically blue can to better suit Chinese buyers. So while it is true that A, and then comma, B, blah, 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 blah. In many circles, comma, companies have decided to stick to their tried and true advertising methods when entering new markets like China. PepsiCo, comma, however, comma, bucked this in China when they radically altered their traditionally blue can to better suit Chinese buyers. So in many circles is just like saying among many people, comma, so, or many people are of the opinion that they should stick to their tried and true advertising methods. So again, it's dividing the two camps into, they believe this, PepsiCo believes this. And then when we go on to discuss it, we show how the PepsiCo method is the more effective method. Many companies have decided to stick to their tried and true advertising methods when entering new markets like China. Nevertheless, comma, PepsiCo has decided to be versatile and radically altered its historically blue can to better suit Chinese buyers. Or we could replace nevertheless with in contrast, comma. Okay, so I hope that those phrases helped to clarify certain ways that you can add a level of coherence to what you're writing. Now, to help you visualize how to use these phrases, I've summarized them into a chart. And so what we've looked at just now was adding information, sharing examples, showing the effect and drawing conclusions. So this would be both your discussion and concluding sentences. Okay, very logical language in these boxes. and finally contrasting. And I've divided these different categories into the phrases that are at the beginning of a sentence, the phrases that appear in the middle of a sentence, and the phrases that appear at the end of a sentence. So I'm hoping that this will help you to to commit these phrases to your memory and to try them and experiment with them in your own writing. Okay, so we'll just go over very quickly the different phrases. So for adding information, we had in addition, furthermore, moreover, and secondly. And please note the commas after each of those. And then the middle of the sentence, we could use and as well as and also. Sharing examples, for example, for instance, comma, comma. Take blank as an example, full stop. We don't continue this sentence. We start a new sentence after this. As such and such has shown or have shown, and then something, and please note the comma. This can be seen. Okay, so blank such as blank, and we had an example before where we were talking about something. I don't remember the example particularly, but at the very end we had such as, you know, I think it was, you know, China's or PepsiCo's entrance into the Chinese market. And then if you recall, we talked about namely. Please note the comma before namely, and this appears towards the end of the sentence. Exemplifies, the verb we were talking about before. Then we share the example, and then we put comma for example or comma for instance, full stop. These are at the end of the sentence. Blank plays a good example here. Blank is an obvious example or a fitting example. Okay, a very academic way to word your example. And then full stop, and you're ready for your discussion sentence. Showing the effect, drawing conclusions. So please note the manner in which this language remains very logical. So at this point, you're supposed to be drawing certain conclusions from your example or from the paragraph as a whole. So as a result, therefore, please note the commas, because of blank, comma, because of this, comma, and then we go on to explain. Because of this, it is clear, for this reason, comma, it is for this reason that, consequently, comma, owing to, which you'll recall we had an example above, and don't forget your comma, since, blank, comma, due to, thus, therefore, this clearly shows, it can be concluded that the link between blank and blank can therefore be seen, and I think you'll remember that in our case study before, blank, comma, as, and then comma, as a result, comma, blank, is therefore, is consequently, comma, owing to, is for this reason, so blank before it and blank afterwards, blank, blank, so makes it clear that. And then at the end we can finish these sentences with can be seen, so a very obvious and clear and direct way of saying that this is the conclusion that I want you to agree with. Can be concluded, is clear, is obvious, is apparent, and you could add lots of other phrases down there. Okay, and then the contrasting phrases that we went over were, however, comma, despite, in spite of, blank, comma, while this is true, comma, on the other hand, in other circles, in contrast, nevertheless, comma, although, blank, comma, and then we had but, and if you use however in the middle of your sentence and you have what could be a full sentence, an independent sentence on one side and an independent sentence on the other, then you should be separating it with a semicolon and a comma. Blank, comma, which is in contrast to, blank, comma, which is at odds with, which I don't think we had an example of this, but this is also a very nice way to word two things that are contrasting. So I hope that brief video was helpful. I hope it wasn't too confusing. Now that I've gone through it, I'm worried that maybe it was a little bit quick. But anyway, I'm going to post this chart and all of those examples at my blog, IELTSIELTS.com, and I'll also post them at IELTSNetwork.com. And as always, please leave me some feedback and let me know whether this video was helpful or not, or what you would like to see in upcoming videos. Thanks very much, everyone, and have a nice weekend.